Hello, Bl'Artagnan here, bringing you Desh's Lost Chapter Lufenia. I did not pull Young or Desh, so figured I'd have to try to figure out how to do this without synergy. I mean, I could have brought, I guess, Garland or Terra, Lightning, kind of, the usual crew, but I wanted to try some other units, see what worked. And it turns out these three work pretty well. We got Krile here, bringing that weakness damage up, and the enchant for Ultimecia. We got Paladin Pecil bringing some tasty auras, some healings, some overheal, defense. I mean, the whole package. Paladin Pecil, you know what he's about. And Ultimecia bringing more of the good stuff, the usual, the damage. She'll also play a critical role in the second half of the fight. This is kind of a two-phase fight in a sense. Okay, technically it could just be a one-phase fight if you do some of the more Terra-related strategies. But the basic gist of this fight is these guys, every few boss actions, they're going to swap between their stances. Either physical or magical stance. The idea supposed to be it kind of sells Desh's respective kind of defensive stances that he takes. And those stances either give them a brave damage reduction or brave gain reduction kind of effect. And once they hit 50% health, they're going to cleanse, which they also do while changing stances sometimes. And they're going to go into murder mode and just start dishing out an absurd number of HP damage attacks. So my plan here is to play it pretty cautious for the first half of the fight. You're going to see, for instance, you just saw with Ultimecia, I used her brave attack, Maelstrom, because I didn't want to take the break. I wasn't 100% sure what their all attacks would do. I went into this fight semi-blind. Like, I kind of got the gist of the fight, but I didn't know what their specific attacks did. I didn't really read the boss details much. So I figured, let's not find out the all attack is some, like, big cataclysm move. But yeah, so the basic idea with this team is going to be to play pretty conservatively. Try to kind of keep Ultimecia relatively unspent for the first half, so that we could really just kind of kick it into overdrive and completely demolish them in the second half of the fight, using a combination of paralysis and Ultimecia's turn deletion and Garland and Friends' delays to keep the bosses from ever taking an action. Between Krile and Ramuh, we're going to be able to stack back-to-back paralyzes on them. Getting ahead of ourselves with a bit of a spoiler, it won't end up mattering because Garland and Ultimecia is more than enough turn denial to prevent them from even getting one turn after they hit, below 50%. But that was the thinking here, the strategy I wanted to employ. So with Ultimecia, you see here, bringing in Garland call number 1 now that they're below 80, because they recently cleansed, so I wanted to kind of... My goal with that call was to try to get... I wanted it on them once they drop below 80% and got, some increased defenses, but also wanted to time it so it came, after one of their stance change-based cleanses, The orb for this is kind of interesting. It's AoE HP damage, which is kind of funny because, well, Ultimecia does a lot of AoE damage. A surprising number of her turns are going to be spent using single target damage because of her HP attacks and her protean swords. Luckily, she has a good number of AoE attacks on top of that. And you're going to see I'm going to be trying not to use Held's Judgment if I could avoid it, because I want to use as many of those post 50% as I can when I'm really, kicking into full gear with the Garland Burst and all that jazz. Really trying to kind of backload our damage, so to speak. So a lot of the orb management is going to come from Paladin Pecil's skill 2 and Krile's, and also his EX, and Krile's Thunder, and also her EX, although having to often charge it, as you saw there, with skill 1 kind of undermines that a little bit. There's going to be a few times when the orb's going to get a bit scary, and there, Breakorder didn't agree with me. It's an interesting boss we're fighting here. I know a lot of people are not enjoying it, because it's definitely one of those bosses where they're kind of incentivizing you to say, just don't let this boss do anything. Just, you know, do the Terra Young thing, do a lightning Garland massive delay thing, and that is probably the path of least resistance. It's probably what I'm going to try doing for another subsequent run after this. There are ways around for the first half of the fight. You can kind of, you know, you can play a conventional kind of enemy phase team if you want. The frequent cleansing is pretty annoying. I don't really plan on bringing Xset through here unless I want to meme it with like a Garland lightning thing again, but I feel like that joke is going to get old real fast. But the second half of the fight, they start doing some ridiculous kind of, you know, mechanically unique HP attacks that just kind of, you know, mess up your tanks and whatnot. So you're another case where I just didn't feel like taking the break, so we're really slow rolling them here. The turn count is going to not be an issue. 90 turns is plenty of time to take these guys down. The difficulty with these guys is not their hit point pool. It's their defensive stats. It's the fact that their defense gets super high, and their brave gain reduction gets super restrictive. I think late in the fight, I think probably post 50, they're going to be reducing brave gains by, I want to say, possibly 90% if I added that up right. It gets nuts. So you see here, I was nervous about the turn stacking, but luckily the free turn from the EX kind of saved us there. So here's where we're going to enter into a kind of awkward part of the fight for me. Because based on prior experience trying to get this team through here, I know that since they cleanse at 50% and don't delay themselves, we have to be real careful when we bring them down. Because if we only have like one person going after them, that's bad news bears. Definitely lost a run. Oof. See, the AoE attacks, nervous. We definitely lost a run to just underestimating how quickly, once they hit 50, like I thought I can give them a single turn, and then they suddenly turn, jump, attack, dead from overhealed. It was insane. So we're going to be really kind of slow rolling them the closer they get to 50 and trying to really just time it just right. Because I have a specific setup I want to get done here, because again, I'm not sure how quickly we can kill them once we go to below 50, so I've packed contingency upon contingency to make sure that they cannot do anything once they're below 50. So part of that contingency is, you saw I had the Garland call, or not Garland, Garnet, Gabranth, Jesus, sorry, G people, G units. Gabranth call, which is a very good call, rendered in some ways a little bit. It worked great with Ignis Call, but Ignis Call, part of why I pulled Ignis, which I don't think actually has come up yet, is because he gives you a call with a single framed HP damage up, which I find quite helpful, because one small downside to Gabranth Call, and he has way more upsides than downsides here, is that he takes 2 frame debuff slots, plus 2 unframed ones if you use his skill 1/1. Overall, the fact that you get 2 uses of the HP damage up for 6 turns each from that call is incredible. But okay, you're seeing here, I'm really trying to do some mental math to figure out how we're going to play this out. But the thing with the Gabranth call is it also comes with a framed 20% max brave down, the judgment debuff. Which is really kind of useless if you're trying to pull the trigger, so to speak. It just basically says, okay, this boss only has 5 debuff slots. And I want to avoid that. So you're going to see that Gabranth will be the very last call that we use. Now here, I'm realizing that I'm in a bit of an awkward spot. I brought the Kuja call with me here, and you saw me earlier use it to try to push them below 50. It didn't work out the way I'd hoped it would. But here we're using the base Kuja call to put the framed Holy Imperil on, so that Pecil is going to take over as the enchanter for the party. We're going to drop the Jack call. I'm going to, I believe, forget to use Kryle's AA, but at least remember to use Jack's base call. Yep, there's the forgetting the AA. I remember that I forgot. And here, we're going into Ramuh. Stacking those paralysis. The idea here is, should, through some terrible miscalculation on my part. Should they end up in a position where they're able to take a turn, they're going to be paralyzed. And then as soon as that paralysis falls off, Krile's trap's going to go off and paralyze them again. And if I can't kill them with Ultimecia, Garland, and 2 consecutive paralyze effects, I probably don't deserve to clear it with this team. So, here we have Gabronth finally showing up. I'm dropping that there partially because I wanted to get the Gabronth call on before bringing in, what's his name, Garland? More G people. Oh, here was just merging 2 recording files together. Now, we can bring in Garland. And from here, this is kind of... Garland's really fun. It's funny. I've talked in a few of my videos about how much I like Yshola's Call because it lets you have the support unit carry the burst effect, so your damage dealer, turn stealer can go crazy. Turns out, I was a little ahead of the curve in saying that, but I also didn't realize that you could just bring a damage dealer and have them just do it. Because damn, that Garland burst is good. And so being able to just use that, who needs a support when you can just have a ridiculous damage dealer burst effect? It's kind of the new paradigm, I think, or at least it will be. With this Terra, Young, Garland shenanigans and stuff like that. I will say I didn't pull Young. Because I don't really think I'm going to enjoy that playstyle enough to want to invest in that character. I also am trying to recover some resources. That's a big part of it. At the end of the day, if I had tickets to burn, I'd probably do it. But Dash would have been nice for roll coverage. But with Young, I feel like I can probably clear the fights I want. I would be trying to kind of clear with the Terra Young Wombo combo without him. And I don't think I would enjoy using him as much as I would using kind of other setups to do so. That's just me personally. I pulled Ignis instead, basically, because I figured the value of that, the 1-frame call plus roll coverage of Fire Enchanter plus HP damage up plus debuff immunity, I valued that more. I tend to value kind of roll coverage and the kind of utility slots more these days because my roster's kind of developed. For a newer player, that's a different story. If you're still kind of building out your roster, I think it's a very different discussion to have. Or if you really enjoy the playstyle. Now, because again, at the end of the day, if you like doing the Terra Young thing, pull Young, pull Terra, kick their asses. Clay is a great example of a player who he knows what he's about. He uses the teams that quote unquote, the meta Square Airlines or Terra Young, and you know what? He does insane stuff with them. He's a fantastic player, and it's always a pleasure to watch what he does, both because he's very good and because he's actually pretty hilarious too. That helps a lot. But do what you enjoy. So don't take the fact that I don't really value Young highly personally to mean like, oh, he's bad, you shouldn't pull him. I think he's ridiculous when enabled properly. It's a question of what you enjoy in this game, as I think I've said before many times in the past. Playstyle and things like that. Apparently my playstyle is just being a goddamn hipster or something. So this fight went down reasonably easy. I had to play kind of safe in the beginning. You see, that was my very last skill for Ultimecia. But she got the job done. She's still quite good with the right enabling. And that includes a Garland support burst. Oof, it's good stuff. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed the video. Please consider liking and subscribing. And thanks for watching. I appreciate you sticking through to the end. I'll see you in the next one. Adios.